Hey!
So, this was the idea. Two artists, both singer-songwriters, chatting during the COVID-19 lockdown in a Zoom room. We talked about a whole host of subjects we feel really passionate about and aired our views on life. This is Amir, and I'm Parry Ray. Welcome to our conversations, unfiltered and stripped back.
Let's kick off. Musical genre. Describe, for the people who are watching and listening and don't know.
Yeah.
Where does your music sit? How did you find it? Did it find you? Take us back to the beginning.
Well, it all starts with Michael Jackson when I was young. And I actually grew up, instead of listening to the albums, I grew up watching the concert that Mum recorded on a video.
Oh, okay.
And, so I remember, just a side note, I'll get back to it in a second, a side note, I remember listening to Billie Jean on the record for the first time, thinking, this is a bit slow, because obviously live, things can naturally speed up.
Of course.
And I just remember, obviously, the tempo of Billie Jean on the record is more like...
Yeah.
Whereas when they were doing it live, it's more like... So it's like really quite a lot faster.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, yeah, sorry, side note away. So I grew up watching that. And so from then, it was singing, dancing, performing, that was it. Job done. And as I got a bit older, I think my brother, as I said, he's a couple of years older than me, he got me into rock music. And when I got into rock music, it wasn't about being a singer and dancer anymore. It was about, I want to play drums like that guy. And so then I started playing drums. And I was obviously drummer of a rock band. We couldn't find a singer, so I became the drummer and singer of this band. And I was in that band from 11 till 16, or 15, I think. And, I was listening to all kinds of different rock, but then at the same time, just in secret, I was listening to a lot of hip hop. And I was listening to funk, and I was really into Eminem.
Why in secret?
Why in secret? Because I was a rocker.
Okay.
I couldn't have everyone. I had a rock and roll reputation. I couldn't have anyone thinking that I was listening to grime and rap and all that other kind of stuff.
Fair enough.
That was enemy territory, but I loved both. And obviously, as you get older, you realise that liking both is completely normal. But at the time, it's almost like you've got your group of rockers and you've got your group of chavs. And I sat quite well in between both. But and so then it was different types of rock.
Just on that point, as musicians, you realise that whichever genre you sit in, most musicians have really eclectic taste.
100%. Definitely. I've learned that as I've gone further in my business, in the music industry and meeting new people in the industry. Like, I read something about you that you really like Corey Taylor's lyrics.
Yeah, so I've covered.
Can I just say, I'm a huge Slipknot fan.
Oh, so am I. I've been to see Slipknot.
They're amazing, right?
Yeah. I've been to see Slipknot and Stone Sour loads of times. And in fact...
And no one would know that if they based you on your sound. No one would know that.
Totally. But Corey Taylor is an incredible songwriter.
Amazing. But he's a poet. And so intelligent.
Absolutely. And he also loves jazz. So a while ago... I tweeted him my version of, I covered a version of Snuff. And I don't know if you're like this. If you ever cover a song, sometimes I hear an original and I hear an alternate version, again, just downloaded in my head. And I was like, I've got to do this way.
I've got it.
And in fact, I just thought, Carly said to me, you should try and get it in front of him. And so I thought, I'll just tweet it and he probably won't see it. Anyway, not only did he see it, he basically tweeted back and went, what a way to start the morning. What an incredible version. Liked it, and then retweeted it to all his followers. And I got all these crazy, scary mask followers going, oh God, I really love your music and blah, blah, blah. And it just shows, it's that age-old thing where appearances can be deceptive.
Oh, That I honestly,
And you
from
can't
life,
judge a book by its cover.
I've never judged because of that. Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So anyway, carry on. Yeah. So you were.
Sorry, yeah.
So maybe when you were growing up, that was the thing. I think I'm melting. Actually, it's so bloody hot in London today.
Oh, it's so hot. That's why I've had to shut all the blinds.
Oh.
It's not my guitar's from melting as well.
I know, it's so hot. Maybe the time when you were growing up and getting into music, maybe there was more division, because I think when I was growing up, you could kind of like everything. You could like punk, you could like rock, you could like new romantic stuff, you could like pop, you could like jazz, you know, there could be a broad range and it would all sit together.
Oh, I don't think it was really any different. I think it was more the mindset of certain individuals, including myself. And it was just sort of like, you're so in deep with, well, you're in a rock band, why are you listening to Eminem? Why are you listening to Craig David? And I was asking myself these questions because I was only asked once by somebody else. Oh, I didn't see that as you. So then I kind of just bought loads of rock stuff and just made it look like that was all I liked. But really, so from Michael Jackson, then we went to Craig David, Eminem, hip hop, and then rock, and then from rock to punk, and then from punk to actual original punk, and then metal, and then everything. And I really loved it all. And but through all of that was Red Hot Chili Peppers, which I love the funk nature of Chili, but the kind of aggression of the rock and the punk elements that they had. And so they played a huge part. Foo Fighters, of course, otherwise I wouldn't play drums. And then from that, I think I must have been about 14, I think, when Green Day, American Idiot came out.
Okay.
And I remember that, I don't know why, but it just blew my mind. And I got well into this kind of like punk rock, black shirt, studded belt kind of thing. I was all about it. Crazy hair, eyeliner, all the other shit. And I was absolutely loving it. And all the music, I still listen to Green Day now. But from there, that started my frontman journey. So now I'm thinking, do I want to be a drummer? I want to be a singer. I want to be a singer again. Then I got really into Guns N' Roses, and I watched that man, Axl Rose, as a frontman, and said, okay, that's what I want to be. Yeah. Now, okay, do you know what? Drums, I love them. I'm going to have to, for a minute, love you and leave you. I have to be a frontman now. And from there, then Aerosmith, and Queen, and then I got back into Michael Jackson again after all that. And I'm writing songs, and I'm drifting further away from this rock band, and I'm just getting really into the funk elements of music. But I'm also really liking brass sections and trumpets, and just like understanding different arrangements. It's no longer distortion guitar and just usual bollocks pop songs talking about teenage angst. It's like, I've got other things to say as well. So I wanted to fuse rock attitude with funk pop music, and I think that's where I sit now. So I'm funk pop act, really.
And really it just came from your personal musical journey, and
so I think all of my elements are in there.
Yeah, and I think it's the same for me. I mean,
what was yours?
Well, I think I did very much grow up with the whole Michael Jackson, Stevie Wonder, Whitney Houston, and I would go and buy the vinyl and sit there, and I think I listened to Saving All My Love for You probably about 62 times in a row, because that woman had
such a good song, though.
It's
timeless. It's classic.
Yeah, such a good song. And
Absolutely.
Also it's it's just, it feels effortless. What's really interesting is, because I've done so much vocal work now, you can actually tell how much work she's put in behind the scenes to make it sound effortless. And I think that's the beauty of anyone that's mastered their craft. They make it just seem totally effortless.
Definitely.
And I think I always loved, so when I was at school, so if I just fast forward and then I'll rewind, I also used to listen to a lot of rock. I used to listen to a lot of, let's say, glam rock, like Queen and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I used to love T-Rex. I thought Mark Bolan was like...
Did you really? I would have never had you down as one of those.
Well, the thing about me is, I think a lot of people wouldn't have me down as a lot of things.
Well, do you know what? That's fair enough, because I do feel you on that too. Yeah.
So yeah, and then so I used to, at school, I was in a rock band. I was kind of in a pop covers band. But when I was 10, my guitar teacher changed, and the guitar teacher that came along was a jazz musician. And I used to sing and play the guitar, and I also really, really loved, and this is where I might lose you, musical theatre. Because I come from an Indian family. We had Hindi movies on all the time.
Yeah.
I also grew up in the generation that used to watch Fame, the TV show, on every Thursday at 8. So if I could have been high kicking down the streets of Piccadilly, I would have been doing it, and everybody joining in.
I went to a theatre school, so I'm very familiar with your type.
So he came along, and I used to sing and play the guitar, and he was like, I want to give you some I think the way he put it was, I want to just broaden your musical vocabulary. And I was like, totally up for that. Because up till then, a lot of the stuff I was also learning, because my mum had a very set idea of the way things should be done. A lot of my training was classical. Yeah. So I did a lot of choral singing. I did classical Indian singing. I did classical Indian dance. I did my grades and piano. It was all very, straight. And he said, I want to broaden your vocabulary. And I was like, yeah, totally up for that. And he said, and also I think this will really suit your voice. And I was like, okay, that's interesting, because the reality is so much of your voice, and I don't know if you find this as a vocalist as well, so much of it depends on the instrument you're given. It depends on the dimensions. It depends on the size of your mouth opening. So much of it. I mean, I can belt, but I'm not a natural belter. I can belt through technique, but people like Whitney, Aretha, who can just open their throats and it comes. It's just a different. It's a different architecture in there, as it were.
Sure. Well, I'm a natural belter.
Oh, well, that's interesting.
Yeah, I used to go to singing teachers. Just like I think the first time I actually really went to one, and this is post school, was someone who actually lived locally here, and it was the first time I had to do 5 gigs in a row, like consecutive days. Mm-hmm. And my mum actually said to me, she was like, I think you should just go, because what was I, 18 at the time, and I was like, yeah, Mum, do it, whatever. And it's like, no, listen, I've signed you up, just go and have a word. And we would test it. She was doing the usual testing the keys, how much can you belt? And I got up to, I can't even remember the note. And she just looked at me and said, you're a freak. I was like, what do you mean? It's like, I don't know any male students that can go higher than this. And that was about 6 tones down from what I was up to. And I think that was just because, like you were saying about the architecture of one's, vocal cords, voice and face and stuff, and mouth structure as well. Mm. I think I was just really good at imitating singers. So when I was singing Michael Jackson songs, I tried to make myself sound like that. And then I was exactly the same with Craig David. I was exactly the same with Jamiroquai. I was exactly the same with Freddie Mercury. I can sing like Axl Rose if I really have had enough drinks.
So this is so fascinating. So I'm the exact opposite. I have actively never wanted to sound like anyone else.
Mm. It's not necessarily wanting to. It's just that naturally I went in and then I kind of pride myself on that. But you never want it. Yeah, but I think, well, that's it. I mean, like you said, musical journeys are different. So for you would have thought, I really, really want to find my own thing, but I used my imitation to find my own thing. Do you know what I mean?
I think actually it was something different. I think it was actually something different. I think I never considered doing that. I never considered imitation was a way of learning technique, which I know a lot of people do, and it's really effective, but I had never considered it. So maybe I was just thick, I don't know. But I remember
it's just a different approach.
I remember this teacher. I've lost you again.
1 second, somebody's calling me, give me a second. Okay.
I remember this teacher going, I want to broaden your vocabulary, and I was like, yeah, really up for that. And this gave me a lot of Billie Holiday, Nina Simone, Nancy Wilson, Chet Baker, whom I adore, Dinah Washington, and I was just like, my mind just went, and it was like, and it wasn't that, it didn't take away from anything else I loved. I mean, how can you as a vocalist not love Freddie Mercury, not love Michael Jackson? You know, all these people are so relevant and such incredible musical talents.
I don't know many musicians that don't like either of those either, even like piano players.
No.
Even dancers.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think it goes back to what we were saying at the beginning, which is regardless of genre, there are certain people that are so steeped and immersed in their musicianship that it doesn't matter what genre,
it doesn't.
Because you can relate to it. And I think that's why jazz, something happened when I listened to jazz and blues. Yeah. I think it was the underlying almost frequency in the vocals. It was something that was pulling me, and also there was a simplicity. Jazz is not necessarily always simple, but actually sometimes it can be very simple. Sorry?
There's a delicacy in amongst all the kind of, there's sort of like that simple but intricate delicacy of the music and fluidity of how it swings up and down. It kind of pulses the way music should, rather than obviously nowadays you've got click and quantize and now everything bang on time.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
That pulse of music that jazz naturally has is something that will draw anything to it.
I think what's really lovely about it as well is, and this is what I have always tried to keep at the forefront, is it can be very naked. It's very vulnerable, and it's very naked.
Exposed.
And it's very, it's all about tension and release, which is what music is to me. You know, it's about that build of pressure, and then there's a release, and
which is likened to life.
Yeah, exactly, and emotion. So it was just kind of like, okay, this is the thing. And I think that's what I love. I love the nakedness and vulnerability and simplicity of it. And it's like, here I am. And, you know, you can strip it back. You can put loads of layers on it. But that core of emotion will still get you. And I think I was hooked. The
way that you talked about that reminds me of a really interesting Bruce Lee interview that I'm going to send you the link later.
Okay, cool.
That he was saying about his martial arts. He's like, here I am, man. And this is me as a human being, but it's about combining the two really extreme each things in life, which is art and science, and being able to bridge the gap between the art and science, finding the scientific nature within the art, but not so academic, but also finding the art in how beautiful science can be. It's about like joining the two things. And I think music, martial arts, any kind of sport, it's all there. Life it's there in life.
I agree. Years and years ago, I had this wonderful, I happened across this amazing singing teacher. He wasn't a vocal coach. He was a singing teacher. He used to be an opera singer.
Wow.
And he was really, really old. And you go and you have an audition to see if he would take you on as a student.
Oh, one of those.
Yeah, but he was really old. Like, he was really old. So he was in his 80s.
Oh, so he's allowed to be picky, yeah.
Yeah, he's allowed to be picky, totally. And also he was very particular about everything he was doing. And I hadn't done a gig for a while. And then I had like a string of gigs coming up. And we were doing all these exercises. And I think my difficulty of my background, having come from classical training, is sometimes I can get too into my head. And we were doing...
What do you mean?
Well, I
think more academically about things.
Yes. And concentrating on the technique. And I remember saying to him, I want to do this. Do you think I should transpose it? Do you think I should take it down? And I just remember him putting his hand, he's no longer with us, sadly.
Oh, bless. Okay.
I remember him putting his hand on my shoulder and saying, Parry, the work is the work. When you get on stage, you close the door on that and you just feel your way through it.
That's the best advice anyone can ever give about singing.
Totally. And
the best advice.
I mean, that's the other thing, because I want to segue into what we were going to talk about next, or some other things we want to talk about, which is what is the most important thing for you as a singer-songwriter? For me, that's it. For me, it's putting all those things together and going, I want to show you parts of me, and I want to be as honest about them as possible. And the way I want to connect with you is through my song.
It feels a little bit like the similarity we have as performers is that on stage, where we are at our most exposed is where we are literally the most comfortable in any aspect of life. It seems like, obviously, I think you can tell I'm a little bit more confident about talking to you since the first one, because now I'm understanding the dynamic we've got here and I'm enjoying it. Obviously, it's a bit tentative the first 10 minutes of the first one we ever did, but this is normal now. But with stage, I feel like I never had to learn to love it. Like, you have to learn to love everything. I had to learn to love rehearsing. I had to learn to love recording. I had to learn to love, writing songs in a forced nature. You know what I mean? Like, in the sense that, right, you need 5 songs by this time.
Yeah.
So you need it done. I'd be like, yeah, cool, see you there. Not care about it until like 3 or 4 days before, and have 5 really decent tunes done. That's not an arrogant thing. I'm just saying that I knew that I needed to then live a lot in that time. It's not concentrate on trying to construct the greatest song academically. It's about, right, let's go and find things to do, new things to learn, write them down, job done. And then you can construct them when you're in the studio or whatever. So but what I was saying was, you have to learn to love rehearsing, and you have to learn to love practicing the bits that you're at your instrument, or you're singing, or you're dancing, all the bits that you think, do you know what, I'm doing this move a bit too same all the time, and you think of a new one. That bit is tough to get up for.
Of course.
Whereas the stage was never, ever in that bracket. I never hated going on stage. I still don't hate it. And I reckon even when I can't walk anymore, I'll be trying to climb on there.
Oh, no, I totally agree. But I do believe there is a performance gene. Because I think even people who aren't artists, who aren't obvious creative performers, I think they still have it, you know. Cheers. I think, it's really interesting. I see my kids, they're both very creative, but my son has a performance gene. And what I say the performance gene is that even if you haven't, say for instance, when he was little, both my kids are very musical. And he would like play in a little school concert or something. Now, Josh is very like me. It's a bit like fly by the seat of your pants and not put in the graft all the time. But when he got to performing, it was almost like the performance gene compensated for that, because it was almost like his body language changed, even as like a 6-year-old sitting at the piano. His body language changed, and there is something in your brain that kicks in, and you just, like, you know, the other day I was saying you dial it up or dial it down. There's just a little nudge of the dial, and you know you're going to get through it. Loads of friends of mine who knew me first as a mother rather than as a singer-songwriter, you say to me, oh God, don't you get nervous? Don't you get nervous? And I'm like, no, it's the most natural thing for me to do. And if I could do it every night, I would.
Oh, God, yeah.
I just would. It is.
Same here. You know what? I'm one of the weird ones, because when it comes to tour, I'm sure, I mean, you've toured before, and you've been away from home for certain periods of time. I'm even built for that side of the tour as well. Like, I'm actually built to, like, you know, when we talk about like going to the dark side of life sometimes and enjoying it, relishing the fact that we go there. It's like all that stuff that people hate about touring, which is, you know, staying up really late, maybe having to get up early, eating food, maybe not drinking enough water, drinking too much alcohol, or maybe not even having any kind of parties. You can make any kind of party you want on the road, on your terms. You do whatever you want. Do you know what? If you want company, you can get company, and if you don't, come off and go to bed.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's very difficult to go to bed after a show. It's so hard. And
completely.
What do I want to do? What do I want to do? I'm in one of those really up, adrenaline-filled moods where I'm like, do you know what? If I was surrounded by 30 people just chatting and laughing, I love that. But equally, I can handle it if I just force to my hotel room or whatever, because then I can just watch TV. And if I really need to talk to someone, fuck it, I'll sit in the mirror and talk to myself.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I agree. And I just think it's really interesting what you were saying about rehearsals. But I actually love the rehearsal side of things.
Oh, I love them now.
Because it's just like, it's almost like polishing your craft. You know, it's almost like getting it in. It's so embedded that you know. And it's that beautiful balance between, and this is what I really love. This makes me sound like such a geek. But it's that repetitive polishing of getting it embedded, but being able to have like the sparkly stuff on top, the shimmery stuff that keeps it fresh, and just and keeping it right there on that balance point. That's what I love.
Yeah, it's sort of bridging the gap between polished and the unpredictable that could occur at any moment, and being excited by it.
And that's another reason I love jazz, because sometimes when we run, like a lot of my songs, there'll be specific arrangements, but if we, every now and again, I'll throw in standards. And what I love about it is I'll count it in, and it's almost like I'll see you at the end, because you never know what's going to happen. And that's one of the real beauties. And I think the most gratifying thing about music is that it's a conversation. It's a conversation between all of you on the stage.
Yeah, that's a good way. I never thought of it like that, actually. Conversation, I like that.
Yeah, and that's really how I've always viewed it. And it's kind of like, it's almost like we're all sitting around on the sofa, but we're inviting people in to have a look and join in.
I love that.
Thanks for watching. If you want to see more, check out Parry Ray and Harmony on YouTube. I'd love to hear your comments. And come and say hi on our socials, @Parry Ray and Harmony and @Amir Official UK.